Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we are finally going to be talking about the newest album from Mark Ronson called Late Night Feelings. So am I the only one who feels like it's been years since Uptown Funk? And yes, that song originally debuted in 2014. I get that it's been a while, but the pop landscape that was once open to the shamelessly retro, classicist approach that Mark Ronson brought to pop music, it's mutated so much thanks to the onset of trap and the collapse of so many acts that they seem like they've left the producer and songwriter in a bit of a weird place. It feels like it's been so much longer than it's actually been. Hell, if you want evidence of that, look at how it seemed like the radio was anemic towards Nothing Breaks Like a Heart, a genuinely terrific Miley Cyrus collaboration that was co-produced with Jamie XX, and that's one of the best songs that she's made this decade. So, in a way, I'm not surprised that it seems like Late Night Feelings doesn't quite have the same buzz that greeted Uptown Special in early 2015, but I still wanted to cover this, if only so I could have an excuse to give Nothing Breaks Like a Heart a little bit more attention and exposure, because again, I think that song flopped and deserved to do better. And Ronson still has a sort of clout to pull in acts as varied as Alicia Keys, Angel Olsen, and Lykke, along with Miley Cyrus. And while I wasn't expecting a smash in the same way as Uptown Funk, I did have some high hopes in terms of pure pop craftsmanship, so what do we get from Late Night Feelings? So okay, reviews of projects like this are a little bit tricky, mostly because this is best to be heard as a compilation, rather than see some sort of overarching theme or narrative as an album. But that's not saying that it's not consistent. In fact, I'd argue Late Night Feelings is damn near single-minded in its chorus of smoky, emotionally complicated relationship songs that call upon a slightly older R&B and pop palette, while still feeling modern in a lot of their framing and delivery, and even a fair amount of the production. In fact, I was actually quite surprised how much I enjoyed this in terms of pure pop construction. And while I won't call this great, it delivered enough solid tunes to put it in quality territory. And I'm a little bit surprised how much it seems like people are not paying attention, because again, this is really quite good. But if I want to highlight a weakness right out of the gate, it does come somewhat in the writing. Not that it's precisely bad, but even for pop it can feel a little bit simplistic. The stories are being told more through the emotionality and delivery of the singers rather than any sort of intricate writing or subtlety or subtext. And that can start to run thin if the majority of the songs they sit in the same emotional territory, let alone having the same topic as a lot of them do here. And again, the primary emotion is love-struck longing for all the wrong reasons, mostly for guys or partners who are emotionally unavailable or toxic. And what I kind of appreciated is that even from artists you wouldn't otherwise expect self-awareness, you do get the insight that they know in their head this is probably a bad idea to pursue these people, but their heart is looking in a different direction. The biggest pleasant surprise for me came from Camila Cabello on Find You Again, with lines like, "There's a U-shaped space in my bed, always U-shaped thoughts inside my head," with a nice double entendre in the second line of the verse implying that if she went back, it would be a nice regression for her, especially with the main line in the hook implying that she probably will never find this guy ever again. And that's when you get the fractured frustration of Don't Leave Me Lonely with the newcomer YEBBA, or the bitter disappointment of Miley Cyrus on Nothing Breaks Like a Heart. Probably still the album highlight, but she actually has some competition, because then Angel Olsen shows up for True Blue, and while she's got the classically trained poise to seize the audience's attention, I couldn't help but think this is not quite as strong as Stranger's Kiss with Alex Cameron that plays in slightly similar territory. But then again, what is better than that song? Then there's Lykke really returning to form with some great multi-tracking and the messy emotionality, where there's still real sensuality on her two songs, far better than her pop experiment last year. And then there's Ilsey on the closing track Spinning, surrounding a thick cushion of distancing autotune where she admits her own fault in splintering this relationship, and the grief and regret, it comes through pretty effectively. Now that said, when the album goes down its detours, it does hit some serious skids. Most notably Truth, with Alicia Keys in the last Artful Dodger that's trying to go for more of an agitated, socially conscious R&B vibe, and it doesn't match with anything. It's a bizarre pivot. It probably could have easily been excised because it doesn't match with the tone of the album at all. But the next two issues do kind of come in structure and sound, and let's get this out of the way now. If you're expecting the blatant retro soul or funk tones that have characterized Mark Ronson's previous albums, you'll only hear them in the occasional questionable synth tone, percussion that doesn't quite have the body or fidelity that it should, or some tight bass rollick that's always welcome. And you can make the argument this is his most anonymous album to date in terms of what he contributes as a producer. Indeed, it would not be hard to see most of these cuts serve as album staples or singles for their singers, with the project bound more together on theme than sound or production. But I'd argue that's not quite the case if you look at the details, because while you might be able to slot these songs into conventional mainstream pop, Mark Ronson does a lot here that puts him in a higher tier of producers making these sounds. For one, he fleshed out the melody behind our frontwomen very consistently. They're not just given a spare backdrop of reverb and percussion to work with. There's nearly always a tune, either carried off the pulsating grooves like on the funkier guitars on Find You Again, the 80s inspired sizzle and gravitas of True Blue, or the wells of pianos playing off the textured knock of Don't Leave Me Lonely. Then you get the flagrant pop country bombast of Nothing Breaks Like a Heart, co-produced by Jamie XX, and honestly probably could have afforded to contribute more here. And while I'm not wild about the watery minor piano tones complementing Diane Gordon on Why Hide, those slightly tinny guitars opposite Lykke Lee with the richer backdrop on 2AM, they sound phenomenal. And when the project actually does have to get minimalist on spinning in order to end things off, it's actually really effective. Now on the flip side, while Truth is probably the most jarring and out of place cut, there's also songs where the groove either feels a little bit too fidgety and quick, like the title track, or the slightly overmixed funk percussion on Pieces of Us with King Princess that seems like it's kind of missing its explosive payoff or really effective bridge, or where the song just feels unfocused or unfinished, like how When You Went Away feels like an interlude of horn-accented atmospherics and it somehow gets worse on Knock Knock Knock, with YEBBA's vocal layering, which is somehow more squawking and grating off that groove, and it's startling how little funk and energy it has, especially given its length. But as a whole, look, if you're expecting the sort of world-conquering song that was Uptown Funk on this project, well, I'd argue Nothing Breaks Like a Heart probably could have put up a worthy fight if positioned and marketed properly and not released in very late 2018 to get killed by the holiday season. Yes, I know Uptown Funk was released in a similar seasonal window, but the two songs conveyed very different emotions, and pop was in a very different place to accommodate one versus the other. But I do think this has been underappreciated and overlooked, and it absolutely does get a lot stronger on its second half, so sit with it and you'll probably enjoy it. And while I wouldn't quite say there's a ton of dimensionality or anything here you haven't heard much before, I'm happy that Mark Ronson is moving away from pure retro pastiche into something that's a little bit more interesting, but just as tuneful and well produced, with some pretty well written songs if you pay attention to the slight details. As such, yeah, you know what? Light 7 out of 10, definitely recommended. And if there was any good in this world, a few of these songs might actually get a boost from the album to push the Hot 100. I'd love to see Nothing Breaks Like a Heart actually make it back. Now, I severely doubt it, but we'll have to see. In the meantime, though, yeah, you know what? Check this out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. Yeah, this is one that's gone under the radar for a lot of people, but if you want to buy and stream it, links down in the description below, along with all of my social media down there. And I got the poll up there if you guys all want to tell me how wrong I am, although I'm curious how many people even care that much about this, so we'll see where that goes. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. Just a friendly reminder, coming up this weekend, we actually have my mid-year review, and that's going to be a fun endeavor. Probably going to premiere that, I want to say either Sunday or Monday, so stay tuned for more details. And if you're looking for the most recent episode of Billboard Breakdown, it's on the new channel, link over here. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.